lovers and liberty seekers. Welcome back to Are You Smarter Than a Libertarian, the show where we test your knowledge of current events, policies, and all things free market or not so free market. Today's topic, President Trump freshly minted liberation tariffs, which, spoiler alert, are more like taxation days if you ask anyone who loves liberty. Buckle up because we're talking taxes, trade wars, and whether Uncle Sam should be slapping a 25% fee on your next minivan. Here we go. On Wednesday, President Trump took to the Rose Garden to declare in no uncertain terms that other countries have been ripping us off, stealing our jobs, and basically turning the American dream into a global rummage sale. His big solution? Reciprocal tariffs. A fancy way of saying, if you tax our goods, we'll tax yours. And, by the way, we'll do it to everyone all at once. Now, from a libertarian perspective, of course, hearing tariffs is like hearing a cat screech or fingernails on a chalkboard. Tariffs are taxes on imports, plain and simple. And for those of us who value the free market and personal choice, a new wall of taxes on foreign goods doesn't exactly scream liberty, but it lets you see what the president has in mind. The headline-making proposal is that Trump wants a 10% baseline tariff on all imports to the U.S. just for starters. Then depending on each country's own trade barriers, the U.S. would slap on some extra reciprocal taxes. For instance, if a trading partner charges a 30% tariff on U.S. goods, we might charge them half of that, 15% on top of the baseline 10. So what are we at? 25%. You see how this could get really messy really fast. Now, let's move on to the next part of this. In the past, Trump's approach to tariffs was more piecemeal. A 25% tax on Canadian steel, a 10% tax on Chinese-made cell phones, and so on. Now he's going big. No one's safe. He's like Oprah, but with taxes instead of free cars. You get a tariff, everybody gets a tariff. For a long time, libertarians have argued that free trade, as free as humanly possible, benefits everyone. You might ask why? Because it respects consumer choice, competition, and allows each country and its businesses specialize in what they do best. Tariffs. They're just taxes that typically get passed along to U.S. consumers in the form of higher prices. Think you're sticking it to China? Think again. Your local store that sells Chinese electronics will have to pay that tariff at the border, then hike prices so they can stay profitable. So guess who ends up footing the bill? That's right, you, or your mom, or your boss, or your barber, everyone really. In essence, it's a domestic tax that punishes Americans for buying what they want at a fair global price. And that's the thing. We've lost that part of the plot. Now, why, you might ask, is the president so enamored with tariffs? Since the 1980s, he's insisted they'll bring back American jobs, reignite manufacturing, and give us billions, no trillions of extra dollars in revenue. He's banking on a scenario where foreign automakers and electronic brands flock to the U.S. to build new factories to avoid paying tariffs. Sounds great, if you're a diehard economic nationalist anyway. But building a new plant and training workers doesn't happen overnight. In the meantime, Americans are stuck paying more for cars, clothing, smartphones, and all other stuff we import. And who's to say companies won't just move their factories somewhere else cheaper, bypass these tariffs some other way, or worst case scenario, smart a nasty global trade war. If you're not convinced tariffs affect everyday life, check out the new 25% tax on imported cars and auto parts. A single car can crisscross the U.S.-Canada border up to 8 times before it's fully assembled. Parts come from everywhere, Korea, Japan, Mexico, you name it. That means each trip might get hit with a tariff. Suddenly, the cost of making cars skyrockets. What happens next? Automakers bump up the sticker price. According to one estimate, Trump's tariffs could add as much as $15,000 to the cost of a Ram 1500 pickup, or over $12,000 on a Toyota Tacoma. Ouch. And Ram 1500s already cost close to $100,000. That's a big chunk of change in an economy where many folks live paycheck to paycheck, as I currently do. Libertarians see this as classic governmentalism. Washington picking winners and losers by artificially jacking up the cost of goods. Buy American. Sounds noble until you realize it's the feds messing with the free market to change our behaviors, like making foreign candy bars cost $5 more just because they cross the border. Then there's the global backlash. We're going to get into this. The minute we slap a 25% tariff on someone else's good, they turn around and say, oh yeah, enjoy this 25% tariff on American grains, soybeans, or whiskey. Now our farmers and distilleries suffer. This can escalate into a full-blown trade war, and historically, trade wars are never pretty. Economists warned that we could see slower growth, higher inflation, potential job loss. Used car prices could spike if new ones get too expensive. Insurance might rise because parts cost more to replace. It's like a giant game of tariff dodgeball, only no one actually manages to dodge the balls. Of course, Trump doesn't just love tariffs for economic reasons. He loves them as negotiating weapons. In his eyes, brandishing a big tariff is like throwing a roundhouse kick to a country's ribcage. Or, as Teddy Roosevelt said, speak softly and carry a big stick. And tariffs are the big stick, but he also doesn't speak softly either. Do this trade deal or I'll raise tariffs on you again. Capiche? In some cases, as with Canada and Mexico, these threats have led to last-minute deals, though not always deals that dramatically improve things. Some critics say this is less about actual economic policy and more about leveraging power. After all, if you're the mighty United States, you can bully smaller economies into playing ball. But what happens when you take on large economic blocs like the EU or China, who are just prepared to slap us back with duties on products we export? We've already seen a preview of how tariffs might play out. During Trump's first term, he got tough on steel, aluminum, then on Chinese tech. The result, according to multiple studies, was that manufacturing jobs didn't magically flood back to the U.S. Meanwhile, American consumers wound up paying a lot more for certain goods, and farmers felt the pinch when other countries retaliated. Wow, it's almost like no one wins in this, but we get to feel good. President Biden, despite campaign promises to revisit Trump's tariffs, actually kept many of them in place, indicating just how politically tempting tariffs can be for any administration, but particularly for his, because he won a lot of the Rust Belt states. Now, that didn't happen this go around. Trump did. In the short term, they look like a quick fix. In the long run, libertarians argue they backfire, stifle competition, and punish people who just want to buy goods at market prices. With the new Liberation Day tariff, we're looking at a whole new level of disruption. The baseline 10% tariff alone would be a big deal. Layering on reciprocal rates that could rise 25 or 34 or more could spark chaos in the global supply chain. Markets are jittery. Economists predict a potential recession if the policies go into full effect. Now, from a libertarian angle, the perception is simple. Abolish tariffs or at least slash them to the bare minimum. Other countries want to foolishly raise barriers. Let them sabotage themselves. We should stay open, keep trade free and competitive, and let the best businesses thrive. Tariffs just end up punishing American consumers, stunting innovation, and propping up politically favored industry at the expense of everyone else. We don't have free trade in this world. We have countries negotiating trade deals. If we had true free trade, businesses would be able to move goods and services across the borders without any government intervention. So, are you smarter than a libertarian on the topic of tariffs? Probably, if you know that taxes on trade ultimately means taxes on you. Trump might call it Liberation Day, but as any card-carrying free market fan will tell you, true liberation doesn't come in the form of massive new taxes on goods and services. It comes from letting people and businesses buy and sell where they please, free of top-down interference. And remember, tariffs are taxes. They distort prices, create winners and losers, and sometimes even turn into all-out trade wars. For those of us who value individual choice and minimal government intrusion, that's about as liberating as a padlock cage. Thank you for tuning in. Make sure you like, subscribe, and drop a comment with your hottest free market take. And if someone starts cheering about how tariffs are going to make us rich as hell, you might want to ask who's actually paying the bill. Spoiler alert. It's you and me, folks. Until next time, I'm your host, Jeff Metric, reminding you new videos drop every day. Until next time, stay free, stay informed, and stay accountable.